Okay, so we now get to analyzing the last statement of the Mishnah. The last statement of the Mishnah was a dispute between the Tanna Kama, the original sage, and Rabbi Shimon as to the order of what comes first, the offering or the drinking of the water of the Sotah. This original scholar, the Tanna Kama, said, first drink the water, then the offering. And Rabbi Shimon argued the other way around, first drink and then bring the offering. But he concluded, and this is the part of the Gemara, this is the part of the Mishnah that the Gemara quotes before its analysis, the Imhishka, the last line, second to last line of 19a, the Imhishka, that if they gave her to drink, and then afterwards they brought the offering, as Menchasa, her meal offering, Sheda, it's still valid. So that was the dispute. Which one comes first, offering or drinking? And Rabbi Shimon concluded, even though Tanna Kama says first drink, then offering, Rabbi Shimon said offering, then drink. But he says if it was done the other way, it's still okay. This is the Mishnah, right? So before the Gemara gets to what is the underpinnings of the dispute, how are they analyzing the verses, the Gemara first quotes a Brisa, and I'm reading the Brisa now based on Rashi's interpretation. Rashi has a long Rashi there to explain how to properly read this Gemara, and I'm going to read it according to his reading to the best of my ability. So before the Gemara gets to what is the difference between the sages and Rabbi Shimon, the Gemara quotes in the Mishnaic H text a Brisa, which discusses Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Shimon, both of whom agree that first comes the offering and then comes the drinking. Just Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Shimon have a different way of getting to that same conclusion. And once we establish that, then the Gemara is going to ask, well, what were the sages thinking? What was the Tanna Kama, the first sage, thinking? So in other words, the first 10 lines is going to be two different ways of coming to the conclusion that one should do the offering first and then drink. And then tomorrow, I guess, we'll get to, okay, so what was the Tanna Kama thinking? The one who said first drink, then offering, what was he thinking? Clear?
Yeah, could you just
pass the Kleenex, I'm sorry. Pass the Kleenex.
Can you repeat again which opinion is which?
Tanna Kama, which means the first scholar of the Mishnah says drink, then offering.
Okay, thank you.
Rabbi Shimon says offering, then drink. And now we're going to learn that Rabbi Akiva also agrees with Rabbi Shimon that it's offering, then drink. And the Gemara is going to quote a Brisa, which has a discussion between Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Shimon, both of whom agree that first comes offering, then comes drinking, but they're going to discuss different ways of getting to that by analysis of the verses.
Okay, great, thanks.
That's where it. So in order to do that, the question is, what does Hashem want? What's the halacha, right? So before we get to that, let's look at the actual verses. So if you have the Chumash in front of you, open up to Bamidbar, the book of Numbers, chapter 5, second half of chapter 5, right? The laws of the Sotah begins with verse 11, chapter 5 of Numbers. Verse 11 begins. Verse 11 in chapter 5. Okay. You have it, Alan? Okay, so we're going to do a little, not reading all the commentary there, but just go through the timeline, not the timeline, the layout of the verses. So 11, 12, 13, 14, all discuss what happens that makes it qualify as a Sotah. He warns her, she doesn't listen. That's verses 11 through 14. Comes verse 15, right, and describes, okay, now that she's a qualified Sotah, because she was warned and she secluded herself, comes verse 15 and begins, what should he do? And there it says he should bring his wife to the temple and they should bring an offering with them. And that's where it says not to put oil and not to put the frankincense as is usually put with a meal offering. That was verse 15. Now 16 says, you see 16? It's important.
Yeah.
16 says, the kohen shall bring her forth and place her before Hashem. Okay, so we still, right? So he's bringing her there. Then it says that the kohen should take the holy water in a vessel and earth that's in the that's in the ground of the Mishkan, which we discussed at length. Right. So he prepares the water, doesn't say anything yet. That's 17. Comes 18,
So it's 17 is
preparing the water,
preparing the wine.
right? Get the water, get the earthenware vessel, get the earth, right?
Yeah.
Then it says she should then, her hair is, right, they
Expose her hair.
expose her hair, and then she holds the offering, but the Kohen's holding on to the water. That's 18. Okay. Now 19, so she hasn't drank yet, and they haven't brought the offering yet. We don't know which one's first yet,
The Kohen holds the
right?
water.
Because in the meantime, everything's prepared, nothing's been done yet.
She's holding the offering though, right?
She's holding the offering. This is what the verse
The Kohen
says.
holds the water.
And the Kohen's holding the water. That's the verse. All the bitter curse-bearing waters are in the Kohen's hands. End of 18.
While the water remains in his hand. Yeah.
Right? Okay, now 19 comes along. 19. Now here's the first thing. She takes a vow. Right? 19, 20, 21, all describe the vow. Right? Act 22 also, where she says, Amen, Amen. Right? So if we're following the order of the verses directly, we have preparing everything, taking the vow, right? Now comes 23, right? With me?
Yeah.
23 then comes and says, write down the curses and erase it in the water after the vow. Now comes the first time the Torah says that she should drink. 24 says she should drink. Now, hold on a second. At this point, did they bring the offering yet?
No, it was in her hand, and that's all it said, right?
Didn't offer yet.
No.
So here at this point, what does it sound like?
Sounds like drinking.
Drinking first. It's verse 24. Drink. And the curse of waters goes into her. Then comes 25 and says, the Kohen takes the offering, waves it, and brings it to the altar. So we have vow, erase the water, erase the ink, drink the water, bring the offering. That's what you would think at the point of 25. Right, 26 again describes continues to describe the drinking, but then it says at the end of 26, don't look at the commentary there, because the commentary probably fixes it up based on the Gemara. Look at the actual text of the verse, which is the bold words. 26 says, the first half of 26 continues to describe the offering on the altar, and then concludes, and after she shall drink the cursed the waters.
Okay.
So before it said, drink, offering, one second, there's one more verse. Drink, offering, and then she drinks. Yes? So it's there's a little bit of contradiction going on here. Following? Yeah, you see it?
I see 26.
The end of 26.
Should say, okay, so the first part of 26 is
Continuing the description of the offering. Right? The Kohen takes a scoop out, the fistful, right?
Right.
And it burns on the altar. And then it says at the end of that, and after he shall give her to drink. So it says drink, offering, vow, erase, drink, offering, drink. And then comes 27, and again says, he shall make her drink from the water. So 3 times the Torah says drink, once before the offering and twice after the offering. Clear? So it's confusing.
Pretty clear.
I mean, it's clear, but it's confusing because but we're clear on the confusion of the verse. So we're clear on why there's room to try to analyze the text, why there's opinions, because
the drinking comes before and after they discuss.
And it's 3 times. Once before the drink offering and twice after the offering. It could have only said it once instead of 3 times.
Right.
Right? Never mind once before, one after. The very fact that it's triple is already itself. Okay. So now we have that. Let's look at the Gemara.
So that would leave open the room for
try to figure out what the verses mean.
Exegesis interpretation.
That's right.
Because of the learned one yesterday,
Gzir Shava is comparing words to different places, but this would leave it open to try to understand what the verse means.
Well, if you see words in different verses, though, is there a connection?
Sorry?
Isn't that what the law was? If you see the same word in different verses, there's a connection.
In different sets of laws, but here it's all one set of
Different
laws.
sets of laws.
Right, there are two different sets of laws where each have the
Okay.
same word, and you have to learn from each other. But here it's they're in the same law. So what we really have to do is figure out what's the primary to tell you what the actual law is, and then what's the secondary that's there to teach you some detail, some add-on, exactly. So it says this is where Rashi learns the Gemara. Tana Rabbanan sages taught top of 19b, quoting a brisa. Again, I'm teaching it the way that Rashi explains. The verse says, before she drinks, before the description of the offering, it says the hishka, he shall give her to drink, before it describes the offering. Ma Talmud lemar, what could this possibly teaching me? It already states explicitly after the offering, the hishka, that he should give her to drink. So Rabbi Kiva takes it that the real way to do it is drinking after. Why? Because it says twice drinking after, right? At the end of verse 27, it says, and after she shall drink. So because that word and after she shall drink is there, that's for sure the way to do it. Because the verse says, and after, right? The question is only, well, why does it say before to drink if it explicitly states later and after she shall drink? And therefore the two times the Torah describes to drink after, that's the primary one. And the question now becomes, well, what does the verse mean when it said before to drink? Okay. So therefore it says following. Yeah. Okay. So therefore
drink after
is the primary. First of all, it says it twice there. And specifically it says the word ba'achar and after.
And it says after.
That's right. So that must be the primary. So then why does the verse say before and she shall drink before the offering, when clearly the verse states later that the drinking should be after the offering? So therefore explains Rabbi Kiva, to teach you this specific law.
The question was, so why is it mentioned before?
Sorry, yes.
Before the offering.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Well, you mentioned yesterday.
Sorry?
I know they didn't tell us, but you mentioned yesterday for the lesson. That the first time it may have been because this is all descriptive, right?
No, but it's instruction.
Instructive.
And it's all instructive.
Right.
It's not descriptive. There are earlier when it talks about the curses there, it's descriptive. And the waters will enter her and curse her, and the waters will enter her and curse her, or the waters will enter her and won't curse her. But those are description. But here's Vihishka, and he shall make her drink. It's instructive.
You mean this last one?
All three of them are instructive.
All three.
All three times where it says to drink, it's instructive. There are other times where it describes the water, and the water will go in and curse her, or the water will go in and won't curse her.
About putting the period here.
In what regard was that?
Like there should be.
Oh, that was in the Mishnah. That was in the reading of the Mishnah, not in the verses.
Okay.
Anyway. Yeah. Okay, so let's see. That was in the Mishnah. Okay, so the question that becomes, Rabbi Kiva establishes, agrees, or his understanding is that the primary is to drink after, because the verse says explicitly after, and it's twice there. The question is, why is it there before? So explains the Gemara, if the scroll has been erased at any point in time, I'll explain in a minute what that means. And she says, I'm not drinking. I want to quit this. Right? And she doesn't, but she's not acknowledging that she misbehaved. She just wants to back out. We basically compel her, it says, seems from Rashi. They physically open her mouth, and make her drink, against her will, because the name of God has been erased. So the Rashi explains further. The law is, we try to, the very last thing we do before she drinks is erase the ink, because it's God's name. And we hope that before we get to that point, she's going to admit and say, I'm sorry, I misbehaved, I was unfaithful, don't erase God's name. So we try to defer the erasing of God's name, the erasing of the scroll, to as late as point as possible. Now, in Rabbi Kiva's view, where there's offering and then drinking, that would mean when is the scroll erased? After the offering. That's when it ought to be, because you want to push the erasing to as long as possible. Because imagine this scenario in Rabbi Akiva's view where you're drinking after the offering, right? They erase God's name and then they do the offering. That's a good 10 minutes. You have to wave it. He has to bring it close to the altar. He has to take a fistful. He's got to bring it up to burn it. It's a whole long time. And in between that time, she may, the whole offering may have awakened some teshuvah in her, some repentance. And she says, you know what, I'm sorry. I admit I was unfaithful. And in the meantime, we erase God's name for no reason. So therefore, the law is we delay and defer the erasing to the last minute just before she has to drink. Okay, that's the law. So in Rabbi Akiva's view, where the drinking happens after the offering, then the erasing also happens after the offering. Now, it says Rashi like this: if they mistakenly erase the water early, mistaken. So they erase the water early, they're going to go through with the offering, and then they're going to give it a drink. Now, in the meantime, she says, I don't want to drink, I don't want to go through with it. Says Rabbi Akiva, this is the reason why the Torah added the extra word, and he shall give her a drink, to tell us that once the ink is erased, we force her to drink, even if we went out of order and we did it wrongly. Meaning, had they deferred the erasing to later, and she said, I don't want to drink, maybe it would have been a different story because she's backing out now, right? But once the water is erased, once the ink is erased, even though it was done out of order and they did it before the offering, too bad. We make her drink because God's name has been erased and we can't go back now. And that's why the Torah adds that extra word, and he shall make her drink, even though it's before the offering. Because even though the erasing was done before the offering, as it wasn't supposed to, we're going to make her drink anyway because the erasing was done. And thus the verse adds the word, and she shall drink even before the offering, to indicate this halacha if this mistake was done. Clear? This is Rabbi Akiva's view. Yeah? You're going to say something?
Yeah, but I'm not sure I understand enough to be able to ask a question on it.
Ask, maybe it'll help us understand what we're missing.
Perhaps she drank the water. I'm sorry, the name was erased, Hashem's name was erased out of order, but still not before, but still they didn't make the offering yet.
That's a possibility.
Yeah, so there's still the possibility of choosing between the two procedures.
Oh, so the drinking will happen after the offering anyway.
The erase didn't happen, but the offering,
That's right. The drinking will happen after the offering. But at this point, it's too late. We're going to force her.
Oh, for forcing.
It's the forcing. And that's why it says to drink before the offering, to indicate that even if the erasing was done before the offering, once that erasing is done, she's required to drink, even if that requirement began before the offering, which wasn't supposed to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So this is Rabbi Akiva. Divi Rabbi Akiva, these are the words of Rabbi Akiva. Continues the Mishnaic text, the Braita.
But at that point, it doesn't matter if she has to wait. There's no that explanation or that reason for giving her that extra opportunity by burning the offering first. It doesn't really apply anymore.
Sorry?
It doesn't apply anymore, that waiting period to give her a chance to back out because the name has already been erased.
Exactly. That's what this law is teaching us.
The point,
that's the point of this teaching. Exactly right.
Okay.
Okay.
So now, sorry?
Here it says, however, God permitted this desecration of his name in order to bring peace between his husband and wife.
Yeah. By clarifying the truth.
What if she wants to back out? She's forced.
Once the name of God's erased, yeah. Once the name of God's erased, we have no choice. That's the point of this law that Ricky is teaching us. Okay. So now the Gemara continues.
It can't be peace.
Sorry?
It can't be peace.
Well, once
If she refuses to drink, then he'll never know. Right?
Well, she only refused, her refusal only works if God's name wasn't erased yet. Once God's name is erased, peace will be achieved because she's forced to drink.
So
what she doesn't drink.
We force her. That's what it says. Sure. Her mouth is open and they pour it down.
that's Rabbi Akiva's explanation of why
The extra time it says, and we give her a drink.
It's so egregious that once the name is erased,
That she must drink.
she must drink. So therefore, we
Correct.
better do the offering first because it's a long process.
Whatever it is.
It's 10 minutes or whatever it takes.
Yeah.
It still gives her time to back out.
That's right. But if the erasing was done earlier, too late. Even though they weren't supposed to do that.
Right. That's just more
Too late.
in support of his argument.
Correct.
because.
That's correct.
It can't be back, you can't back out.
That's right.
If you could have backed out, if it's a mistake, then his argument sort of unravels.
That's right. Exactly. Precisely.
Okay, I get it.
Good. So that was Rabbi Akiva. Now the Gemara continues. Rabbi Shimon says as follows. He agrees with everything Rabbi Akiva just said, but he adds something else. He's looking now at the 2 times the Torah says to drink after the offering.
Who's saying this?
Rabbi Shimon,
Okay.
which was the author in our
He's
Mishnah,
on the other side.
which is why the Gemara introduces the text. The Gemara introduces the text to explain where Rabbi Shimon's coming from. And then tomorrow the Gemara is going to tell us where the Tanna Kama is coming from. Right. So in getting to what Rabbi Shimon is holding, first it introduced us to Rabbi Akiva, who explained to us why the Torah says, and you shall make her drink before the offering, even though really she's supposed to drink after the offering in Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Shimon's view. Right. But the verse says, and she make her drink, that if they raise the water, she's forced to drink no matter what the order was. Right. So Rabbi Akiva comes and adds and says like this. Now, Rabbi Shimon, comes and adds and says, let's look at the 2 times the Torah says after the offering to drink. In the end of verse 26, where it says, and after he shall give her a drink. And then the beginning of 27 says, and he shall make her drink. Why the repetition there?
So he's giving his explanation of why.
He's adding. Why is the Torah adding twice? Meaning it has to say, no, he also agrees that the drinking is after, right? But the Torah only said once after the offering to drink. Why say it twice after? Right? Because
he's also, I'm sorry.
That's right. There's 3 times the Torah says to drink, once before the offering, Rabbi Akiva just explained it to us, and twice after the offering. They both agree that the primary is after the offering. Rabbi Akiva told us why it's there the first time, to tell us that once the water is erased, you make her drink no matter what.
Okay, so they concur, but for different reasons.
Or they're adding different angles, right? And Rabbi Shimon's adding now, why does the Torah say twice to drink after the offering? Once it states explicitly, and after that she shall drink. That's end of 26. And the beginning of 27 says, and he shall give her the cursed waters to drink. Why the double expression there? So explains the Gemara. With me, Alan? Yeah. So says Rabbi Shimon. The Achar Yashka. The Torah says explicitly at the end of verse 26, and after this, he shall make her drink. What does the verse come to tell me? Doesn't not say in the very next verse 27, he shall give her a drink. So it already tells us in verse 27, or it's going to tell us in verse 27, and he shall give her a drink. And that verse 27 follows the description of the offering. So why state in the end of 26 explicitly, and after this he shall give her a drink? Without that line, we'd also know it comes after from the next word. So explains the Rabbi Shimon.
So he's more of a literal interpreter.
That's right. That's right. Which is why we're going to ask tomorrow, what was the original scholars thinking, right? The ones who say to drink first. Tanna Kama, what was he thinking? When seemingly the verse is quite clear after. That's what we're going to get to tomorrow. Okay. But before that, let's see, what does Rabbi Shimon say about the double expression of, and afterwards he shall drink, and then at the end of 26, and the very next verse in 27 says, and he shall give it a drink. It's repetitive. Ella, therefore, says Rabbi Shimon, la'achar kol ha'maisin kulon hamor l'mayla. The verse, by adding these words, and after he shall give it a drink, the verse is telling you that the drinking must come after all the above things mentioned.
That's the last one.
The last step is she shall drink. Magid, this informs you, says Rabbi Shimon. Gimel dvarim ma'akfim bo. There are 3 things that hold us back from giving her a drink. And if these 3 things aren't done, she can't drink it. Okay?
In other words,
There are 3 things that must be done before she drinks. Number 1, she cannot drink before the fistful was offered on the altar, because that's described before. Number 2, she cannot drink the water until the ink is erased. Number 2, that's also described before. And number 3, until she accepts upon herself the vow. So the verse states explicitly, and after all the above, you shall drink, to tell us that these 3 things must happen before she drinks. The offering must be offered, the text must be erased, and the vow must be taken. Okay, the Gemara is going to ask that some of these things seem to be obvious. Obviously, you can't drink the water until the ink is erased, and obviously, you can't drink the water until she takes the vow. What's the whole point? Right. So the Gemara is going to explain what exactly Rabbi Shimon means here. Following?
Yeah.
This is the end of the Mishnaic text. Now the Gemara is coming with commentary. Clear?
Yeah, so in other words, he's saying that the verse, and after she shall drink,
Teaches that
means that
it must be after these three things.
processes must take place before.
That's correct.
she drinks.
That's
And
right.
you just mentioned
And the three, that's right, three things specifically, that's right. The offering, the erasing,
But
and the vow.
their argument is that a lot of these things are obvious.
Yes, let's see the Gemara. So when it-
really prove that.
That's right. So let's go in order. The first one, Achaloi Karav Kaimet, the first one which says that you cannot drink the offering until, you cannot drink the water until the offering is offered,
Comments.
the fistful is offered. So Rabbi Shimon L'Tamei, this is Rabbi Shimon following his line of reasoning, which is all well. The Amar, which he says, Makriv has Menchasa, first you offer her meal offering, Achkach Mashka, and then she drinks. Okay, so I get why Rabbi Shimon says that, because this follows his unique view that the offering should come before the drinking. Him and Rabbi Kiva's unique view.
Yeah.
Okay, we get that. But now the next statement, which is that she cannot drink unless the scroll has been erased. Elamai, what would happen otherwise? Mashkala, he would give her a drink without the erased ink. What's the whole point? The whole point is she should drink the ink with the curse. So Rabbi Shimon's teaching you, you can't drink the water until we erase the ink. And that's why the verse says, and after. Well, obviously, what else is she drinking if she doesn't drink the ink? So Amar Rav Ashi says, no. There is a unique law being taught here. Law, it's not so obvious. Nitzricha, this law is needed with a sherishum nikar. Because what happens if you erase the ink and ink pours off into the water, but you take out the scroll and you still see a marking from the original writing? So you might say, well, it's fine, drink it because the ink is in there. Says Rabbi Shimon, no. You got to have the scroll completely erased before you drink. And that's what Rabbi Shimon's adding here.
What if they pressed hard?
Which is why we learned in the previous Mishnah that the ink has to be the kind of ink that can erase quick, easily, and not the kinds of thing that will leave behind a mark we looked at in the previous Mishnah.
Yeah, yeah.
That's right. And this is Rabbi Shimon's teaching us.
Walnut.
That's right. Says Rabbi Shimon, the reason why the verse says, and after you should give her to drink, to tell us that you can only drink after you've completely erased that. If there's anything left, you can't drink. Oh, so now there's a law that's being taught to us. Likewise, sorry?
No, sorry.
What happens then? What happens then?
If what?
If the indentation of
They have to be careful not to do that.
what happens if it is?
I don't know what they do. Maybe they'll have to,
Whole thing's canceled.
maybe if you restart this procedure, or maybe you have to do some sort of process to the paper to make it, I don't know. I'm not sure. It's a good question. Not sure. Okay, so now the final one. The final third thing that Rabbi Kiva said has to happen before the drink is actually to Kabbalah Shvua, that she has to accept upon herself the vow. Right. Well, obviously she has to accept upon herself the vow before she drinks.
You can't burn it.
So explains. No, you would be able to burn it, just to bury it, maybe.
You have to bury it.
Yeah, maybe bury it. Yeah, but I'm not sure what happens. It seems like it's invalid unless they use that proper ink that's erased.
Yeah.
That's what it seems like from the previous Mishnah. They have a certain kind of ink that's very light,
completely rubs off.
and they do it so quickly. They write it quickly, put it in, so it's time to dry, and it all comes right off. That's how I assume.
Paper has a chance to
That's right. Before the paper absorbs too much of the ink.
absorb the,
That's my I don't get. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so now the third and final thing was Rabbi Kiva says that she can't drink until, or Rabbi Shimon said, that she can't drink until she's taken upon herself the vow. Well, obviously. So explains the Mishnah, explains the Gemara, no. There's a detail here being taught to us, which is Mishtu Delay Shasya. We don't let her drink the water until she takes the vow, obviously. But Hamichtav Ksivala. The writing could be done before she takes the vow. Meaning to say, only the drinking must wait till after the vow, but the writing could be done before. Oh, no, sorry. This is the Gemara's question. I'm sorry, I misread that. That actually explains that that's the question. On the contrary, Mishtur Deloy Shasya. Drinking, she shouldn't drink before the vow is taken. Hamichtav Ksivila, but you're going to write it before the vow? Don't we want to delay the writing over to the last point possible? So it's not only that the drinking, it's not only the drinking that has to wait till after the vow, but even the writing has to wait till after the vow. So what's Rabbi Shimon teaching us? As the Gemara says, Rava taught to us, Megillah Sotah, the writing, the text of the Sotah, the scroll, Shekasva that was written, before she accepted upon herself the vow, is not valid. It must be written only after she takes upon herself the vow, and then she writes. So what would Rabbi Shimon be teaching us? The verse teaches you that you can't drink until we've erased the ink. Until she's taken the vow. The vow can't even done.
You can't write the scroll until.
That's right. You can't even write the scroll until after she takes the vow.
That's the element that's new.
That's right. To tell me that you can't drink unless she's taken the vow. You can't even write unless she's taken the vow. So what's Rabbi Shimon teaching me? So says the Gemara, Kedin Nosva. You're right. This was added for no reason. It really is not necessary. This is not really Rabbi Shimon is teaching us 2 special laws, not 3. And the third one was just added because it happens to be a fact that she can't drink until she takes the vow. But there's no unique law there because she can't even write they can't even write until she takes the vow. The real 2 teachings that Rabbi Shimon is teaching us is number 1, like his view that the drinking comes after the offering. Number 1. Number 2, that she cannot drink until the ink is completely erased. As for the third statement, that she can't drink until the vow was taken, that's obvious. They don't even write until the vow was taken.
I mean, a woman has to be really stupid.
Sorry?
A woman has to be, why go through all this if you're gonna die?
That's right.
And that's it.
Which is why I imagine.
By Charlie.
Which is why I imagine most of the times, I'm guessing that most of the times the woman actually went through the drink was because they were innocent and they got blessed. Which is what we're saying, that God's giving peace between husband and wife because of this erasing. Because I imagine most people were innocent when they went through with it. I guess, like we learned about Hannah, right? Hannah was. So this is all to explain about. She forced the. That's correct. So
you have to know the laws pretty well
to be able to do that. Yeah, she must have been a scholar. It's true. It's a good point. Anyway, so all of this is Rabbi Kiva and Rabbi Shimon's position. So now we see why Rabbi Shimon says in the Mishnah first offering and then drink. He seems to be explaining every single verse perfectly, especially that key verse which says, and after you shall drink. Right? And the question becomes, well, what are the Tanna Kama thinking of it? The Tanna Kama, the original scholar of the Mishnah, who said that first drink, then offering, seems to be exactly the opposite of what the verse says, especially since we just explained at length all these 3 different verses and what they each teach us. So that's going to be the Gemara's discussion tomorrow.
Do they get a higher preference instead of Tanna?
I believe the halacha follows Tanna Kama. That first comes the drinking and then comes the offering. I'm pretty sure that's the opinion, especially since the Gemara concludes that either way it's kosher, even according to Rabbi Shimon. So, right, you can cover both grounds by doing that. Because Rabbi Shimon concluded that if you did it the other way, it's still okay.
That's right.
So you might as well do it that way and cover both. That's my guess. But we should look in Rambam to really see what the halacha is. Okay, God willing, tomorrow we'll see where the Tanna Kama is coming from. So alternative reading of the verses, essentially. Okay, wonderful day, Eden.
Yeah. I guess